You're listening to Pop This, the podcast where two women talk about everything pop culture. Here are your hosts, Lisa Christiansen and Andrea Warner.
You know how at the beginning of Star Trek, it's there was always like Stardate 647 or whatever?
Oh, yeah. Actually, I do know that, even though I didn't really watch it.
Yeah, and so he just always starts out with kind of a place like, this is the year, this is what I'm doing, this is what I'm getting up to kind of thing.
He was like journaling, right? Like before it was cool? Or after it was cool? I don't know
if you'd call like giving a report on your daily work journaling, but
oh, okay. I mean, he wasn't writing it with a beautiful pen and just like jotting his thoughts.
Dear Starfleet Academy, today was a wild day for me.
Then he did like calligraphy. His
little notes in the corner.
Yeah.
I had 2 helpings of dessert straight to my hips.
I want to remake the Star Trek in that vein. That's what I want it to be. It's just a series of like Sex and the City diary entries. That would be so great.
And I wondered to myself, was I in space or was I just dumb? No, I don't know. I need some time with that one. Sorry. I got into a thing again. Not one of my Twitter fights, just because we know that's one of my problems. But this was just a very somebody said the best Sex in the City husband. You know, the marry kill.
F marry kill. Mm-hmm.
Yeah, and it was all like marry Steve, and I'm like, no, Harry. Harry is the one we marry. And I got a lot of love for that. Well, Harry got all the love, and it was a whole bunch of people going, this is so insulting. Why is everyone pushing us towards Steve? Harry is the man.
I remember seeing that come across my Twitter feed, not your specific pull for Harry, though I support this. But I remember thinking, why are our choices only Aiden, Big, and Steve? You're right. Where is Harry in all this?
Yeah. Yeah. And
why does Aiden get to be there twice?
Well, and what's Trey? Why doesn't Trey get in there? We just don't assume that nobody wants to be with Trey. I mean, no one does. But
1,000% no one wants to be with Trey. But what about Sam's boy toy? Smith Jared.
Yeah, why would we not want to? Yeah,
why isn't he there? That's something you could climb.
He was kind too. Remember?
Oh yeah, I mean, sure, he had other attributes, but also hot.
And other guy, the guy who broke her heart, businessman.
Oh, Richard.
I
mean, he's an easy one to kill.
Yes, I'm just going over, as you said, though, you were just pointing out some of the longer term boyfriends.
Yeah, that's true. But I mean, that's a good one, because if you F, marry, kill, you want to have an obvious kill.
Yeah, and an obvious marry. Hello, Harry.
Yeah, no, Harry's a great one.
Yeah, and so anyway, I will probably continue with that till I die. I just want to point that out.
He also seemed like he was quite skilled in the art of female pleasure.
That was our first introduction. Remember, Charlotte kept saying, this is the best sex I've ever had.
Yeah.
And despite the fact that they tried to kind of present Charlotte as the prudish one, she had a lot of sex.
She definitely had a lot of sex. I really appreciated that, their version of prudishness is that she tried to have was it her that tried to have a threesome? And
Miranda did.
Oh, Miranda did. I'm sorry. Okay.
Yeah.
Oh no, Charlotte was the one in the first season who got presented with anal sex on the second date or something like that.
Yeah, but she's game for that as well.
Oh, she was totally. And that's I mean, but I love the idea of living in a world where being prudish means that you're only questioning if you're into anal sex, not whether you're gonna do it or not.
Yeah.
In any other TV show, she would just be I can't believe you guys all have sex.
Yeah, exactly. But I am just kind of tired of talking about Big, honestly.
You know that I love Big. I'm sorry.
You do?
I do.
Why have we never
did you
really
not know this?
I don't remember ever having. You do.
I do. I'm sorry.
I mean, obviously I'm human, so his charms would be appreciated.
Yeah, that's the thing. I think
Victor Petrovsky. How come not with him?
Ugh, that guy. Kill him.
Well, I mean, I think it's because of the ending where he hit her, but
yeah. Well, also he just
sorry.
I am not like I'm not the biggest fan of like self-involved sexist artists. Like Petrovsky, there was no room for like Carrie's art was more fun and flavorful. He didn't really, I think, see her as like a true companion. He still wanted her to like come and support him through all of his emotional breakdowns and ignore like her her stuff. Her new friends. He just thought like that she was there to just like be his accessory, and I didn't really care for that much. Whereas I do think I think Big, we see him be quite terrible, and we see Carrie be quite terrible in different ways, and we see them a little bit grow together after a long time, and I feel it gets to like a nice place where they sort of deserve each other.
Well, okay, I can go with that. That is that verdict I like a lot better than a beautiful story, because I think that as we move further away from the Sex and the City, we all have agreed that Carrie was an awful person, right?
I mean, Carrie's pretty awful. I still will argue in favor of the fact that that she is the person who brings the other three together, and therefore is like kind of a weird center to that particular quadrant.
Yes.
And that like she does show up for people even when she's being incredibly selfish.
Yeah, but I think my first time watching it, I was probably a lot more sympathetic to all of the ups and downs that her life took. And then, as you mentioned at the end, you're like, nah, Big's pretty much your level.
Well, they each have the exact amount of depth the other person requires to be content in this world.
Yeah. And he had Natasha, and she did that horrible thing to Aiden.
Yeah, I mean, Aiden, I'm never going to be the kind of person who, like, is all that super into Aiden. I know.
Come on. He had a dog. He designed furniture. He was so sexy.
I like the dog. I like the furniture. Yeah, John Corbett's sexy enough. Like, it works for me. But I also think that he like, was, he could be very angry. And I found that deeply frustrating because I just, but one of my favorite things actually that I ended up really loving was, do you remember the episode when Big decides that he's heartbroken because his Hollywood starlet has left him? He only wants to talk to Carrie about it because he's selfish and awful that way. So he goes to find them in the woods at Aiden's cabin.
Yes, I do.
And Aiden and him like sort of work out their weird stuff. And in that like stupid basketball mud wrestling match. Yeah. And it's the most embarrassing thing ever, and it's perfect. And that's actually one of my favorite Aiden moments, is watching how he finally addresses all the anger he's been carrying for Carrie this whole time. And like takes it out on the person he's actually probably most angry at. And it's a real pleasure to watch that character development in that weird way.
Yeah, I agree. And I'll also say that I wasn't a super fan of Aiden's sort of like not doing his shirts up. That whole look is not my favorite.
It's not my favorite either.
Do your shirt up.
Or at least like one more button. Like, I like chest hair, but like one more button. I don't want to look at your belly button and be able to see whether or not you cleaned it.
I agree with you on chest hair, but I'm the only one who should be seeing it, not everyone else. Not all the time, unless we're at a beach or something.
What if it?
But are we talking about Sex and the City for this episode?
It was 1995, and I just honestly think about like, I was just thinking about like, is it telling that we would much rather talk about Sex and the City for the entire episode than pivot to what we're actually talking about? Yes, it is.
Well, it might be a bit of a sign for everybody. Yeah.
It totally is. I'm Andrea Warner.
I'm Lisa Christiansen.
And I'm Andrea Gin.
And you're listening to Pop This, Quarantine Times.
We're all locked up in homes trying to do stuff. And our brain went to the last time I guess there are lots of movies about being afraid.
Yeah, we're talking about The Net, the Sandra Bullock 1995 vehicle in which the internet could erase you. Panic is alive and well.
Yeah, it's weird. I mean, I didn't expect. I told you. Did I say it on the episode or just tell you? I can't remember.
I can't remember, but it is your fault we're doing this.
It is my fault.
Yeah,
because
I was like, how did we end up doing this?
Yeah, I saw it on Netflix, and for some reason, I thought, and I've done this before, I thought it'll be fun to watch a bad movie because there's something sort of comfortable about them.
Mm-hmm.
Because a bad movie is just not trying sometimes to be very challenging or interesting. So it's comfortable, like a warm bath. Not a hot bath, not a cold bath, not a middling bath, right? Very average bath.
When is a tepid bath comforting?
It's because it's like your body temperature.
But isn't that just like when it's trying to keep you've woken up and you're like in a, oh no, that's an ice bath when they've removed your kidney. Never mind. Okay, go ahead. Sorry.
Wow.
Never mind.
Never mind. That's a whole other movie, I'm sure.
I wish that had happened in this movie, by the way.
That would have been more interesting. Yeah.
Oh
So
God.
I just thought it would be quite comforting to watch a bad movie. Like I said, just sort of relaxing, not challenging. But then I forgot. Like sometimes we do this thing where we go, oh my God, that movie's so underrated. And then sometimes you go, oh my God, this movie is so overrated. And then sometimes you go, wow, this is just rated the right way. As in 40% on Rotten Tomatoes.
Yeah. So this is the film synopsis, and it's just pulled from Google. Computer programmer Angela Bennett, played by Sandra Bullock, starts a new freelance gig, and strangely, all her colleagues start dying. Does it have something to do with the mysterious disc she was given? Her suspicions are raised when, during a trip to Mexico, she's seduced by a handsome stranger, Jeremy Northam, intent on locating the same disc. Soon, Angela is tangled up in a far-reaching conspiracy that leads to her identity being erased. Can she stop the same thing from happening to her life? That's the movie.
You know, I'm glad you read that because I did not know that was what the movie was about.
I thought I had seen this movie.
Yeah.
I had not.
I had not.
I turned it on and watched it the other night. I made, I think, the perfect decision to eat a tiny edible, like a gummy, THC gummy, and that helped a lot. But even with that effect, I was like, when is anything gonna happen?
It's a really boring movie.
It is it is shocking that they get to call this a thriller.
Yeah, it's boring, but at the same time, it has an awful lot of chase scenes, and
you guys don't like watching people type in real time?
Or like read their awkward like Insta chats, like oh man.
And then just my most favorite thing is got to get in the mainframe. It's like the tension of will they figure out the password? Of course they're going to somehow figure it out. Otherwise, what are we watching? An entire movie where they can't get the right password?
I just honestly, I was shocked. I mean, I know that like time becomes kind of irrelative to me, and I'm really obsessed with time, so I typically always wait. If I have to,
did you just say the word irrelative? I'm sorry to interrupt.
Yes, I did.
Did you make that word up? Is that a new word?
Yes, it's totally.
Is that like irregardless?
Yes, it's like irregardless. Yes, this is where I'm at. This movie broke me in a big way because I was watching it. It's like endless. And I know I was a tiny bit high, but I wasn't that high. And I was thinking like, oh man, like, is this ever gonna end? Like, why is this movie 3 hours? It's about the internet. When it finally ended, I checked what time. It had only been 1:50, but that's
long.
That felt so long.
And you really could have edited probably like an hour and 20 minutes out of it.
This should have been an infomercial for like your like a I don't know, alarm check or something. Like this is, oh man,
It was really
crushingly
dull.
boring.
And also ugly to look at. As
Yes.
Andrea pointed out, watching people type in real time. Her outfit, like, I mean, Dockers and some kind of Jennifer Aniston type, or like Courtney Cox, they always wore those in Friends, right? Those short little sweaters.
Those shrunken cardigans with nothing underneath.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And it looks bad. There's no good sets. The character that Sandra Bullock plays, Angela Barrett or Bennett?
And Angela Bennett, yeah.
Bennett is so boring. She has no friends. And I'm not, don't take my word for it. Like literally, she has no friends or family. The only family she has is a mother with dementia in a home who doesn't remember her.
Yeah, it's
like a large part of this movie could have been solved if she had one friend. You could have vouched for her.
How believable is that?
I mean, I guess like that's what we're supposed to believe computer programmers are. They're like secretly just lonely, beautiful.
Like you don't even have a cousin somewhere.
Lonely, beautiful women who have nothing to tether them to this world, and that's how they end up in bad relationships with their former therapists. And honestly, like you have to be alone in this world to have hooked up with Dennis Miller. Like that. Can you imagine turning to Dennis Miller for
and nobody
comfort?
ever thinks it's unethical? Like that doesn't come up?
Oh, I think she knows it's unethical, and that's when she brings it up to Jeremy Northam. Who then I had to spend a lot of time just being like, what happened to him?
Yeah.
You know what? Time happened to him.
Oh.
It's he's in The Crown.
No, yeah, I remember him as The Crown. Yeah, I had to spit like, whoa.
Deeply unrecognizable in The Crown.
Yeah.
But anyway, yeah, oh gosh. Like just in terms of Dennis, so in terms of the relation, she brings up the relationships when she's being seduced and she's getting ready to like, you know, do it on the boat. And I was pleased for her. I wanted her to have
Could there be two people with less chemistry as well?
I mean, I
mean, like it was it was so uncomfortable. I had to look away.
I thought it was hotter when the guy on the internet who was like pizza boy or whatever was like trying to seduce her. Like that was better. Anyway, but she's telling him that she has two previous relationships in her past and she's very cagey. And she's like, yeah, I was in a relationship for 3 years with my therapist. And she's a little ashamed of that. And I'm like, well, I mean, I guess, but like your therapist should be deeply ashamed and disbarred from like, or whatever, not disbarred, but like, I don't know, whatever the medical equivalent.
How does license revoked? I think.
Yes. How does license revoked? Like something.
There
like
we go. Yeah.
But I mean, I guess because he is supposed to be a sleazebag, it makes sense that Dennis Miller played him. Like, I guess but they don't do enough work to give her character any kind of like real backstory and his character any real backstory enough to sort of make those things pay off, you know?
And like, what is she getting therapy for? I
mean, it sounds like this lack of friends issue.
Not knowing one single person on Earth.
Well, I mean, but truly, like, and so this makes her the perfect target for this particular like scam or whatever it is. But we don't know anything about like the weird, shady organization that is like targeting her. We don't know anything about like. Do we know what?
There's a weird very beginning where it's this actor shoots himself.
Yeah, and so we understand that, like, ultimately, gay panic and homophobia are the shadow evils in this world.
But it's not explored.
But it's not explored at all. I was grateful that they called it and named it that for what it was. I was like, oh, are we just going to have, like, a classic 1995 film where, like, they don't actually call it homophobia when you are, like, when someone, like, you know, shoots themselves because the world's going to find out he has HIV, even if it's errantly reported. But they actually named it and they called it what it was. I was grateful for that. We have no idea why that was going to be put out into the world. We don't know what kind of like, we don't know who these agents of chaos are behind anything. Like, We have no information. And like, does she get her life back? Really? Ultimately, if like this organization's still out there, like she's not.
No, she destroyed the mainframe. Did you not watch this movie?
Like, I mean, yeah, I guess so the people are the mainframe? I don't understand.
That's what I told you. When you read to me the plot synopsis.
Oh,
that was my first opportunity to realize what this movie was about.
What should have been about, yeah.
But
I don't know. She goes to Mexico, comes back, and she's not Angela anymore. That's from what I
know.
Figure.
But the slippery slope of her like completely losing her identity was hilarious too. Just like, oh, she goes to she signs a visa that says it's like a totally different name. Like, who would do that?
Yeah, they don't check. They don't need any other ID.
Yeah.
And why do they know about Dennis Miller's prescription? Like, how do you know? Like, it doesn't.
That's the net.
The computer knows everything.
Like, it didn't even. Why do they want to kill him?
But it's even like,
and why further? And why in such a convoluted way? Why wouldn't they just shoot him? Why do they gotta make him get a weird prescription and then go to the hospital?
They have to show us just how much in danger we all are from the internet, because they scanned the barcode for the prescription, and you can screw up a prescription, and it's like, and the cameras watch you in your hotel room, and like on and on and on. Like, the internet's everywhere, and that's the danger.
And there's all these other weird, just dumb things that, like, where will I meet you, internet man? Oh, how about the Santa Monica Pier that I can see looking out my window? But now I'm going to get in this car and we're going to drive around for hours? Like, do you remember that?
Yeah, I mean, but just like even like the minor things.
I'm like, where are they going?
When she goes back to the hotel and goes to the front desk and the guy's like, no, Angela Bennett just checked out last week. And she's like, no, it's me. And he's like, no, Angela Bennett checked out. And he's just so invested in saying that over and over again, and that being the answer. And it's like,
yeah,
like that's not a realistic way someone would act.
No, it wasn't even helpful at all. It was like a bad hotel. I mean, I don't know how that
was before Yelp, I guess.
Given the abilities of the net, this must happen a lot. No, they just take people's identities and just do things. No, like, well, it felt like.
I think it happened a lot, like definitely before the internet, because like that's what my aunt has spent the bulk of her time in jail for. Just stealing people's identities. Yeah.
Okay, well, there's.
Okay, back up. Okay. Okay, we need a story. We need a story. We need a story time break. Tell us about your aunt.
Well, I mean, she's. I think I've told you before. Like, she spent the better part of my youth in prisons and jails all over the place for stealing identities and check fraud and all kinds of other things. And
is she as charming as Melissa McCarthy in that movie? Because that's a hoot.
She did have her moments, but ultimately no, because she's not like she's diabolically smart until she isn't, and then she's just embarrassing because she gets caught and tries to pretend like nothing has ever happened. So it's like a little bit of like super smart until she's not super smart. You know what I mean?
Right.
Did she teach you anything like how to forge checks or anything like that?
Well, I've always known how to forge my mom's signature. Like, that's like always like.
That's just a family tradition, Andrea.
Honestly, truly. Like, it started with when I was younger. I really liked the way my mom's signature looked. So I would always like practice it. And then it got more useful after my parents split up and I wanted to like write myself notes for missing school. Because I would just skip school and then write my own notes with my mom's signature. And who was going to find out? She didn't live with me. So that was helpful. But it's actually weirdly one of the reasons that, one, I can be good at like just sort of like white lies, but I feel this strong sense of like, I feel like a compulsion to be honest to a fault all the time because of how I grew up with like my aunts. And like my grandma and I would go, my maternal grandma and we would go and like see her get like her court hearings when she was arrested locally. We couldn't go to the international ones, but we would.
So that's your grandma's daughter?
Yeah, and my mom's sister.
Oh, right. Okay, yeah.
Yeah.
Okay.
Wow.
Well, I think it's reassuring for all of us sitting here that you are like to be honest to a fault. So
it helps me feel better about the world, and also just I really hate lying, so it really makes me uncomfortable. But I'm
sorry to do this. I have to point out that on this program that we are using, we can see each other on the screen, and you have to sign in with a name.
Yeah.
And I did use.
You did use Ruth Marks.
I did use Ruth Marks, which is not my real name.
Well,
I just want that known.
But
I
it is
paranoid.
like, just in case anyone hasn't seen this movie, it's the
alias.
Yes.
Yeah.
It's the name that suddenly Sandra Bullock finds is her name now. It's not Angela Bennett.
Okay,
with a long prison history and like drugs and solicitation.
Can we discuss every time they froze on her prison history? All the stuff that they made up that listed? Did you notice that it said, like, they focused on the part where it said treated for venereal disease multiple times?
Yes. Yeah, there's so many like
that's on her prison record.
Like social stigmas are like wild as
So is Ruth Marks the woman in that office? Is that
it's the
really
woman.
Ruth Marks?
Well, yeah, because at the end you're like, so she.
Oh, as she died, the news report says that. But I didn't know if they just threw that identity on anyone.
Yeah, it's kind of sloppy.
Is...
It's sloppy work to not have just created their own identity and to have used someone else's.
Yeah, and why does anyone care? How did she die? She was like running around that computer show at the end.
She was shot.
Oh, I missed that part. Okay,
you just fell asleep after the mainframe blew up, and you're just like done.
Jeremy Northam was like chasing Sandra Bullock through the building and shot what he thought was Sandra Bullock, but it was
Ruth Marks. I don't know why I can't just say Ruth. I always have to say Ruth Marks. It's like for some reason.
But I like how, like it's just like, oh, these two brown-haired women are totally interchangeable. I can accidentally shoot one of them.
Well, that's fair. They really were.
I mean, they're women in this movie. It's such a weird thing because like this is like a pretty big vehicle. Like Sandra Bullock is the star. She's the biggest name. Like she gets to handle the bulk of the action, and I think she does a fine job. It's just such a dull film.
It did well. I mean, it made a lot of money. Yeah, there must have. I mean, I guess everyone was all like, "Yep, this is real. This is the net. We should see this."
Can I share?
Maybe they thought it was a documentary. I don't know.
Can I share the money that this made? Like the actual numbers? So, these are from Wikipedia. 22 million was the budget. Then it earned over 50 million at the domestic box office. Then with foreign markets, 110 million worldwide, with an additional 23 million in like video rentals in the US alone. That movie made like so much money.
You know what's funny to read now, because I was reading Roger Ebert's review, which was quite fun. But how intrigued he was that she was able to order a pizza on her computer, right? Because this is in 1995. Yeah. And I'll be honest, watching this now, it didn't register to me.
That it was like new.
So yeah. I'm just looking up Sandra Bullock's filmography for a second, and it's just a year after Speed. So I guess like she's at the height of her popularity.
And that's a shame because Speed was darn good. We did Speed, and it's a great movie.
Yeah, and then she did like a movie called Why Do I Gotta Kill? And then while you were sleeping, and
which
then
we've also done.
Then The Net.
So it's all these movies that sort of like rely heavily on her being a charming, compelling person without the movies themselves being good.
And she's always that. And that's why that Roger Ebert review is so sucky. Just to keep pointing out that she's in crappy films. Like, okay, let's go over Tom Cruise's oeuvre. It's not all stellar, I'll tell you that much. But no one's like, wow, Tom, that was a crappy movie you were in. They were all, Mr. Box Office Dynamite.
Well, and that is like definitely a very good indicator of like how these people are treated, and particularly for like along gender lines. Like women are punished for sort of their bad choices that they're also ultimately expected to sort of like rescue at the
Yeah.
box office, and men are just praised for being box office successes.
Yeah, that's all you have to do. But everyone else is like, no, you're kind of a failure because that movie kind of sucked. But this one, I don't actually. I think we had this discussion once before about Sandra Bullock, and her career is spotty.
Her
But
career
I mean,
is spotty.
like this movie we think is a terrible movie, but it
Yeah.
made over $100 million at
I
the
know.
box office.
I know.
I don't know if we have an accurate perspective of
No, you're right. It is by all accounts a success. It is a success.
The thing is, it hasn't aged well. I mean, the other thing that I'm kind of intrigued by is, so the director, Irvin Winkler, I believe is his name. Irwin, excuse me. Like I was really fascinated by his filmography because he was like a big deal Hollywood producer, and he had produced all the Rocky franchise and like still doing Creed to this day. He was a co-producer on The Irishman last year. Like he has been around for a long time. And then when he got to be like, I think those are like around 60 or something, he decided to start directing. And he hasn't directed a ton of films, but The Net was one of his films that he produced and directed.
See, I'm sure for his career, it's a success.
His career is a huge success. Like
exactly.
Well, I mean, he's as a producer.
Yeah.
As a producer for sure, and that just means he has a ton of money. But I wonder if as a director, I think this film is like deeply flawed because the pacing is so weird. It's not compelling. It's not interesting. Like I think that the writing is not great. It doesn't really. But I guess because it's 25 years old, and because the internet was sort of comparatively so new at the time, people really thought that this was like the be all and end all of Panic is like you could be erased from the internet or by the internet.
And then your identity's gone.
Yeah, and your identity's not just like stolen but gone, So like I sort of see how particularly how this became kind of golden in the video rental market. Like
you hear my dog?
I can see people.
Sorry.
Yeah,
Which dog is that?
That's fine.
That's Cash.
Hi, Cash. But yeah, I can see sort of like why so many people rented it and like probably showed their parents. This is probably like responsible for grandparents getting scammed by like robocalls now in like the current day. Like it's far-reaching consequences.
Sandra Bullock seems like a very approachable, attractive woman, right? She's not, like I'm sure that was the whole deal with why, they would be like, she's attractive, but she's not that kind of attractive that women are going to hate. You've heard that before?
Yeah.
Yeah,
so, but
it's,
it's still super implausible that she doesn't know a single other person on Earth.
Is that back to I don't remember, like, was this what we thought, like, we always have bad thoughts on computer nerds or something, and they were at the beginning when she's at home, everyone's trying to convince her to go away, and she finally agrees to go to Mexico or something, right? But she never goes out of her house.
Well, a bunch of people are trying to hit on her. She doesn't leave her home.
Yeah.
And she goes to visit her mom with her dementia. But, like, we don't really understand why she personally is a bit of a shut-in. Like, we don't really understand why she doesn't engage with the outside world. We know part of it definitely is... I think part of it definitely is they hint at it with like the sort of the predatory relationship with the therapist. Like I can see that causing some stress in your life, particularly when she has to go to him for comfort and he's so weird about like you owe me, like he's she goes along with sort of laughing at it, but like that being the one person that you have in your world that you can turn to for help is maybe one of the saddest, darkest moments of this film.
Or when he buys her the Chinese food and he goes, "It's your favorite," and she goes, "No, it's yours." And he goes, "Oh yeah."
Yes. Like there's a lot of. Do you think that this movie was maybe even another half hour long and we got a weird like edit that it took out like a bunch of character work?
I can see that. I can see that them deciding, that it was just let's just focus it on the net, because you can feel that there's like when she's in the prison and she phones her mom, Like,
Yeah.
that's
I
when you
actually-
finally got this idea that the dementia was the thing that her only connection is a person who doesn't even remember her.
Yeah, I actually kind of teared up at that moment. I know that it's surprising that I got even that emotionally invested in this
Wow.
film, but I am a sucker for those sad sort of dementia calls in movies.
It made me think of Meredith Grey always going to visit her mom.
Yeah, and just like somebody, and like when they play piano, like together, and like each has their own hand at the piano, and like I thought that was really sweet too, and like these tiny moments that do give us a bit more humanity to Angela and like a bit more depth that they just. But again, I think that they cast someone like Sandra Bullock, who is so likable, who is so charming, and expect that that's gonna like take care of like writing a good movie.
Yeah, I think you're right. There was a whole bunch of other movie, but they just decided to focus on this idea that you can lose your identity and there's a secret plot going on, which again we don't even know what that is.
I don't honestly until
Was
you
the
said
guy
she blew
who
up the
got-
mainframe. I was just like, I forgot.
The mainframe, it pixelated at the end.
Yeah.
I like how
forgot.
when she's
Because she put the red disc in. It was like, oh, did you notice that?
Yes.
No,
But even,
think
like,
about it.
all this
There were two
scenes,
colored discs, a red disc and a blue disc.
even all of the scenes where she's trying to run away are just so like ludicrous. Like who's running away from someone and jumps onto a merry-go-round? That is the last place you should go. Like, just keep running straight.
It was so much. If you were to make a supercut of just Jeremy Northam looking for her in a crowd, it would be the length of the movie.
Also, remove like your jean jacket or something. Like, try do
Or
something.
I thought when she was in the bathroom too, at the end, she was gonna do a Zola run thing and fix her hair, like how they always do that, right?
cut your hair,
cut it.
dye it,
Yeah, you cut it. But meanwhile, she just shows up. She's like, oh. There's a picture of me out now, and everyone knows what I look like. I should go out looking exactly like I do right now. Like,
yeah,
not even.
I know. She went out to buy like a pop and chips and candy to eat when she was in that hotel room, but she didn't buy like a new T-shirt or anything.
I feel kind of cheated actually, because that is a pivotal scene in these kinds of movies, where the woman goes and gives herself one of those weird haircuts with the bad scissors.
The makeover.
The make under.
The disguise scene.
Disguise scene.
I was writing notes to myself and I was like, I cannot believe that this film's high octane chase sequence takes place on a merry-go-round. That is a perfect metaphor for this movie and what a failure it is on so many levels.
Oh, you didn't enjoy the chase scene in a computer convention?
I know. I love that part. It's like, oh my god, I need to use a computer quick. Where should I go? Oh, here's a computer convention. I'm sure I could just log on to a computer and use it.
Yeah, I know what I'm doing here. They're not new computers. They're just computers here.
Yeah.
Exactly the ones I've used all the time.
I'm sure I can melt the mainframe at this using a random computer on display at this computer convention.
The funny thing is to read that there was actually a sequel and then a TV series.
Well, they're so far apart. So the TV series was like 1998, and then the sequel to the movie was like 2010?
I feel like, and I've never seen this movie, and I'm not suggesting we do it, but I kind of guess I am. It feels like it's the Pelican Brief, and I've never seen that.
Oh, I have not watched the Pelican Brief since it came out, but I remember that being okay.
Is it like it was a similar thing, right? Because she's like investigating and then she gets in too far or whatever?
Something like that, but I don't remember if computers are involved in that.
It's a brief.
I don't think so.
It's called the Pelican Brief.
It's a legal thriller.
A legal thriller. Yeah, isn't it like a
John Grisham?
John Grisham.
Yes. But it feels like it came out around the same time, did it?
It was
Although I really
93.
Oh, so 2 years before.
Well, speaking of Julia Roberts, though, can I just share with you one of the gross sexist things that Owen Lieberman, of course, wrote for Entertainment Weekly in his review about this film? Quote, Bullock pulls you into the movie. Her overripe smile and clear, imploring eyes are sometimes evocative of Julia Roberts. Can you just imagine overripe smile?
I don't even know what that means.
That even mean?
I
She's a moldy piece of fruit?
She's a spoiled peach of a human. I don't know. I just like, wow. I just, oh boy.
Well, I read another review where a guy, let's not even bother talking about him, his name or anything, for The Guardian, was like, this was my favorite movie when I was a kid, and then I got to interview Sandra Bullock for Gravity, so I had to ask her about my favorite movie. First of all, no one cares. Yeah, The Net, because he was a kid and had it on VHS. Yep. I'm like, first of all, nobody cares at all about what you're thinking or watching. Second of all, you want to know how you make a woman feel bad? Tell her you watched her movie when you were a kid. Like, what is wrong with you? Like, shut up. Well, nobody needs to hear that.
Especially like the, like, sort of, depending on how old he was as a kid, like, you don't need to know about whose spank bank you were in.
No, exactly,
like, it's
right?
Completely no, please don't.
Yeah, and then thirdly, buddy, it was a bad movie. Like, all of us have these in our past. You know, don't make me have to, like, make you feel good about your dumb choice. Like, that's not what this should be about.
Have you guys ever been afraid of the internet and your identity?
No. Have you?
I always have low-level fear. Yeah, for sure. You feel like your identity could be stolen at any time, I think. But that's just something everybody lives with, right?
I feel like I've always been prepared to have my identity stolen, again, because of how I grew up.
Yeah, I was going to say.
And I, like, literally, like, my aunt's not allowed to know my address and stuff like that. I'm sure there's probably already some weird shadow version of myself out there. But like, I've always had low-level fear also of just, you know, being hacked or having, like...
Oh, that happened. I've got those emails. The reason I closed my Facebook account was because one of those emails, which was, hey, we've got your porn search. We're going to share it with everybody. And I was like, well, first of all, don't have one. And if I did, I don't think anyone would be, look, Lisa's porn search. Like, I just can't imagine. Like, what's the idea that everyone would, hi, Lisa, just saw your porn search. I'm not your friend anymore. Hi, Lisa, it's your mom. I got an email that said, this is your porn search. I'll never, like, I don't know what they think is the fear. Like, I mean, the shame there.
I think, well, I mean, just all apparently all sexual porn searches have implied with them, like, a low-level shame, because
just like
women aren't supposed to have, like...
But, like, reading that you're like, in the movie where she, like, being treated for venereal disease is on her, criminal record. So that, someone giving you a parking ticket could just look that up. So just so they know.
I find it's, I find it was when, it was like, obviously a lot of people got that same email, right?
Yeah.
But they did know my password.
Yeah.
That they did know. Because they put that in the email.
Yeah. That's terrifying.
It was.
But was your password easy to guess?
1, 2, 3, 4 is a very unique.
See, I feel like you did use that password actually, probably. Or something.
No, I don't think it. I don't think it was. It was just one of the. I don't know how. I really don't know. Maybe I used the same one twice or something. You know what I mean? People, which they tell you not to do. Right. So live and learn. But I always think if people are really good at hacking, that they would do something really cool, like I'll wipe out all of our Visa and MasterCard bills. But no one's ever done that. I've never heard of that hacking operation. So I'm not that worried that they know that much. Now that I've said that, I'm about to become Ruth Marks.
I'll be friends with you no matter how many venereal diseases I get information about you in the mail.
Thank you.
Can you imagine they're like, we gotta save the U.S. Postal Service, so they're sending me information about your VDs from, like, I don't know, somewhere in, like, Virginia.
Wouldn't that be in your medical record? Like, is that? But I guess that's the whole idea of the movie. They've got access to everything.
Well, and I think in, like, particularly, and we've done a lot of work to sort of, like, destigmatize venereal disease at this point, but, like, in 1995, particularly, like, you know, having having an STD was like, we don't even call them diseases anymore. They're now STIs. They're infections.
Oh, come on. That must have come up in Degrassi or even Sex and the City. That some Sex and the City, they must have got something.
Sex in the City, I know Charlotte had crabs at one
There you
point,
go.
but she was
Yeah.
deeply embarrassed about it, and it was like it was used as a tool of shame because it was punishing her for hooking up with like this 20-year-old and lying about her age. So
right.
like that's
more. But also they were at the beach.
They were at the beach,
episode.
and there was a lot of crab jokes for sure.
That was funny. I watched that episode again.
I have to say, like, sorry, I know that we're not talking about Sex and the City right now. We're talking about the net. But going back to like whether or not Carrie's a good friend, she's the one who ended up putting her fingers up Samantha to pull out the diaphragm that was stuck. And I think that is the hallmark of a good friend.
That right there. I gotta agree with you.
Oh no, wait. Sam put her fingers up Carrie. Carrie had to look at her dyed pubic mound. Never mind. I've reversed these. Anyway, they're both good friends. The net. And you know what? Just like
Back to the net.
Angela Bennett could have benefited from a little Sex in the City friendship. Like, my God. You're right, Lisa. Or I can't remember if Andrea said it or you said it, Lisa, but one friend would have undid this whole movie.
That's the whole thing. That's the problem with it. Like
she
the
had
whole thing.
She had to rely on the therapist's cop friend or psychologist friend or
who was not a real friend.
But yeah, he was fake too.
Fake. He was a fake FBI agent.
Oh my God, he was fake too.
But then he died really quickly.
And what about that scene? If you wanted to try and get away with someone, why would you say, "Hey, wait a second, are you fake guy who's driving me around in the car? Might not you pretend that you're in on it and then say, hey, can you pull over here? I just need to get a pack of smokes and then run away? No? Much better to fake a car, or no, like do a real car crash.
Yeah. That, I mean, did anybody like Jeremy Northam's performance in this film?
Why? I feel like, as you said, he must have been promised something more, and then when he did see it was like that, holding the bridge of your nose going, oh my God, like that.
Yeah, like it's, that is, the only person I feel who should have kissed the ground and been grateful for his role was Dennis Miller. The other folks really, and yet still this movie counts as a win in so many people's like Misty River memory banks. Like they're just like, yep, it was a huge box office success, and I remember watching it a million times as a kid or whatever, and like,
which is the worst review of all time.
I know.
Like, honestly, because you will like eat paste, so don't now tell me. That I was such a discerning film critic. I just love the net. It is.
This movie reminded me of when you wake up from a nightmare and it's like all you can remember is being frustrated because nothing makes sense. No one agrees with you.
It was like a dream. You're right.
Yeah, no one's no, you can't convince anyone that you're like telling them the truth or whatever, and you're running away from something. Like it just felt like one of those really bad dreams you wake up from where everybody is against you.
And and LA, there are some nice parts of it, and they were in Santa Monica. Why did they always end up looking like they were like in the middle of like some kind of like the most rundown part of town? Where was this bridge they were running from? Was it by the police? I don't know. I like this. It was the ugliest film too I've ever seen.
I really think this was just a really poorly directed and conceived and film. Like the cinematography is not good. Like nothing about it. The slow motion shots, like all of it is sort of painfully obvious.
The way that like even like the smallest detail, like when she's in the hospital and like her therapist or / ex-boyfriend is dying, she's like, the way she's styled is that her jean jacket is like hanging off her shoulders. Like, like
did she not like arrive on set going,
and it's like,
yeah,
why would
this is what I'm wearing through this whole movie? These doctors? Why would someone
wear their jean jacket like that to talk to like medical staff?
He's my friend. And then, get her out of here.
At one point, she's wearing a hat that Blossom would have worn. Like, we know it's bad, right? It's so bad. So bad.
But even that part where like they're like no, he was being treated for something and died.
Diabetes.
And she's
But
like,
he doesn't have diabetes.
but like, wouldn't like the nurses have physically been there and realized that he wasn't being treated by diabetes no matter what the computer said? Like, because
No,
some
the
doctor or
computer.
nurse was like actually responsible for treating him and so knew what he was being treated for.
And that one nurse, you said he was be fine. Yeah, well, you win some, you lose some. I mean, you know.
I just
like
love...
as if that's something that happens in a hospital.
Yeah.
Hospital.
I don't
it.
know. It looked like he was fine. I don't know. You know, what am I, a doctor? I mean,
It's a very convoluted murder that could have been much smoother and
honestly,
unnecessarily like complex.
Because
nobody in this movie, like in a James Bond movie, they always these weird things we know about. Like you put the little silencer on the end of the gun and the little swook, swook, the little tuk, tuk, and so like silencer.
Yeah.
Like why wouldn't they have just shot him?
Yeah.
At any point when he was getting the frickin' drugs at the drugstore? Why didn't they just shoot him? No, let's make him take the drugs, have a reaction, and then have to go to the hospital.
Yeah.
Rally for a bit.
They are grossly underestimating the amount that we care about this character.
or just
Like,
like, even at the beginning where they like make a guy's plane crash.
Oh yeah.
Oh God, yeah.
Like there would have been
Yeah.
a million easier ways to
Yeah.
kill that guy.
How did they even do that? Like all of a
I
sudden
don't
you
know.
didn't notice a
He just-
tower was there?
Yeah, I don't know.
Like you're looking out the window. Was it raining or what? I can't
or
even
did
remember.
they like pay off air traffic control to give him the wrong directions or something? I don't even know how that happened. Actually,
It's just the
Yeah.
net.
It's just the net, man. It's just the net.
The net.
And all you can do is take it to the mainframe. So
And
no,
hope
melts
to God you've got the password because you are not getting in.
and the disc.
the
And
disc,
the
right-
red disc or the blue disc.
disc.
I'm telling you, this is the Matrix.
This is the early
This is the
Matrix.
precursor
the
to the
precursor
Matrix.
to the Matrix.
So we always like to leave our episodes on. Does it pop?
No.
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 No, and do not fall into the trap I did, which is, I'm feeling a bit meh. Maybe I'll watch a bad movie. Don't. Just watch a good movie. Like, you know, we live in a golden age.
just
You can
watch
look
a
up
better
reviews of
bad movie?
everything. Yeah.
I
Well,
honestly think
I
reviews
mean,
of this, like no one.
There are so many Sandra Bullock movies, too, you can watch. So
Well, the other thing is that whenever we decide to do an anniversary for something, usually there's a bunch of stuff that's been written in other anniversary years. No one's written about this movie, and that should have been our first clue.
yes.
Because no one cares about this movie.
Except me, who casually said I made a big mistake.
And we were like,
So-
do it. Let's do it.
What are we supposed to surmise by the fact that it was successful?
I mean,
Sandra Bullock is lovely.
yeah,
It
Sandra
was just
Bullock
her
can
star
make anything-
power.
She can make
At
anything
the
more
time.
palatable. I also do think that 25 years ago, people did have this extreme
very new,
panic.
yeah.
Like if you think about 25 years ago, if you had been asked to give your information and say that you were going to record literally everything you did online all the time and share all your family photos, and like you can't, 25 years ago, Facebook was like the nightmare that everyone was warning us about, you know? And now we have much more like relaxed, and it's become much more sort of like normalized to share our lives in this sort of constant social structure. And I mean, 25 years ago, that was just not the case.
I also think just, you know, remember that in 5 years after this, we thought the world was gonna end because all the zeros were gonna pop up on
Uh-huh,
the computers.
Yep.
And we spent a
That was
lot of
weird.
money.
Yeah, the year
On
2000.
Y2K.
Yeah, Y2K was a real.
Planes were gonna crash, remember?
Yeah.
Computers were going to explode. Your digital clocks were going to like go backwards and forward and start screaming at you. I don't know.
That's
It
actually.
was gonna be like Poltergeist at the end when the house just goes crazy. That
that's
was the idea.
That's a good frame of reference, actually. And then think about like now, 20 years later, and none of us can safely leave our homes, and we are all dependent upon the internet. Wow, how things change.
Yeah. Wow. Beautiful.
Beautiful.
Beautiful. Beautiful.
So beautiful. What do you recommend right now, Lisa?
Okay. So in our time, our crazy times, I have to say that one of the refreshing things has become the new seasons of The Real Housewives of Beverly Hills and New York of the Housewives. And in particular, if you thought, hey, I got a lot of downtime, should I invest in a show? You could just sign up to Hey You. I don't get paid by Hey You or anything. Because you have all 10 seasons of The Real Housewives of Beverly Hills to catch up on. And bring yourself up to date and enjoy yourself.
Awesome. AG, how about you?
So this is just for anyone who has Instagram, but I kind of like randomly followed. You know how you go to the explore page and you just kind of see random Instagram accounts? I discovered this one called michaelphotography.ch, Michel. And it's just beautiful photos of meadows in Switzerland, like the Swiss Alps.
Nice.
And I find it so soothing to
Like the hills are alive?
Yeah, exactly. It looks like a Sound of Music.
Yeah.
And little like villages with goats, and everything just looks so peaceful and sunny and green, and I just love having these pictures just kind of come up in my Instagram feed when I'm looking at things. And I find it really soothing, and I think if you need some calming photos in your feed, the Swiss Alps photography. That's the way to go.
That is very nice. Yeah.
I have a completely other recommendation. So we are now in the midst of week 6 of our isolation lifestyle. And in the last week, I have consumed 3 seasons, the only 3 seasons of the show Hinterland. Lisa, had you watched this before?
Oh, I have. Yes,
Yeah.
yes. It's Welsh.
Welsh, yes.
Welsh,
yes.
yeah.
Mm-hmm. So it's very dark, very dreary.
Really, really dark.
Like literally physically dark.
Yeah.
Beautiful landscapes though. Just beautiful landscapes.
And lovely sweaters. Good
so many
sweaters.
nice sweaters, good sweaters.
Yeah.
But it is a quietly dark show that gets a tiny bit repetitive. A lot of stuff around grief and kids and death. So that's a heads up. If you're not into that, don't watch this show. But I did find it, and each episode is 90 minutes. So it is like, even though there are only 3 seasons, and I think it's like 4 episodes, 6 episodes, and then 4 episodes. I can't remember exactly, but each episode's 90 minutes. So that's really unusual. But it's like watching a film every episode.
What's the other one that's similar to that? Is it the Shetland one that's in the Shetland Islands?
I've never watched the Shetland one, but yes, probably. And that's based on and the crime writer Anne Cleves. That's based on her books. And she also did the Vera books as well, I believe, right?
Right. Yeah.
Yeah.
That's really good as well.
Yeah, so I haven't watched Shetland. Maybe that'll be my next thing. But I wanted So it's been depressing. I can't say that I always loved it. The first season was a little hard to get through, I found. But you know how I love to stick with something that I'm not entirely into, and then I grow to love it a lot. So not a ton of character work. I
hope that's not explaining your friendship with us. But that's,
yeah, you guys are my hinterland. So nice. Okay, well, thank you so much, everyone, for listening and joining us on this particular journey through the net.
Yeah, and here's the thing: it picks up for Sandra Bullock. She wins an Oscar, so
yeah, she's fine. You can hang out with us on social media, on Twitter, on Facebook, on Instagram. You could email us a suggestion if you want us to try and cover something while we are in our isolation times. Email us at popthiscollective@gmail.com.
And we're recording at our respective homes right now. And Andrea Gin is still producing, but luckily and super fun is joining us right now.
Yeah,
And
thanks for allowing me to be
watching
coming
terrible
in.
movies
Yeah,
with us.
what an
Yes.
We plead with you all the time, and you finally. It took a quarantine to get you to join us more regularly. I'm very excited about that.
I have time now to watch stuff like this.
And hope hope everyone's doing okay.
Yeah.
And you're staying healthy and finding ways to amuse yourself. Why don't you let us know?
Thanks, everyone.
Bye.
Thank you.